Hey guys, this is Ash and you're watching WriterGAsh. So today I'm going to be talking about my magical readathon bullet journal. So I got this journal from Archer and Olive. I love their little bookmark with their and then I got the craft paper journals from Archer and Olive. This is a 160-page journal. It's a dotted journal and I freaking love their journals. They're so durable. I absolutely love how thick the pages are and how it basically like lays flat most of the time without any issues. And the only thing that's like spilled through a page or like, you know, you can see on the other side of the page is when I use a Sharpie. And other than that, everything has worked perfectly with this book, even paints, because I use a lot of paint pens for my bullet journal. Anyway, so I won't bore you with much of this and let you go on to watch my flip through of this journal. This is my first magical readathon / Orilium journal, a bullet journal, and this one focuses more on the background rather than the semesters. I had initially planned on only having one journal, but that didn't work out since I have basically put in everything in this journal. So an overview, so I've got like the history of Orilium, of Aldea, and everything that G has posted basically. In addition to that, I have my character history, my character's like life base, everything about my character is in this journal. And yeah, so let's get into it without further ado. The first spread is the intro. I've got the the Orilium Academy's portrait here. This is from the History of Aldea file that G posted, and I really love the artwork that G has for everything, so I incorporate everything I can in this journal. All right, so the first section is Aldea. It goes over the places in Aldea, the people of Aldea, and just like really tries to do justice to everything that G has provided us. And I wanted to make sure I have anything and everything I needed in my journal, so I could just like flip to a page here and have what I need. So yeah, the first thing we have is a map. We have all of the continent. I really love this map. This is so beautiful. Whoever made all of the documents for this readathon did a fantastic job, honestly. So once we know what Aldea is, we'll go into like a history. So this is like just me copying the files that G had posted, and I just wanted to include all of the information, and I thought I could just like paste pages because that made most sense. But here, while I did copy all of the information, I tried to do it in a different way. So I decided after doing a history of Aldea in general, I would do a more like the continent focused spreads. So I've got my continents. I tried to cut them in the shapes of the continent, and I really like how it turned out. And then the torn effect on the information about the continents really works well. So we've got Eartheria, Dark Meadow, Carador, which is where my character is from, and then Darun. After that, we have the people of Orilium. And so we've got the Earthlings, which is what my character is. So there first, I've got all of the photos. So fire, water, air, earth. And I just really love it. And I included all the information that G included. And then this is the affinities. Anytime I include like stuff that's like pasted on it, it's most likely because I messed up underneath it and I needed to cover it up like that. So like, for example, Earthlings affinities are elemental magic, animal studies, and alchemy. Okay, so at first I was only gonna do the Earthlings, but then I decided I'm gonna make this an extensive file about Orilium. So I decided to then put in the information about all the other people of Orilium. So we've got the humans, and then We've got the elves. I just really love the artwork. Then we have the Skymourn, and then the Eltarians, if I'm pronouncing that right. And then finally we have the dwarves. And then we begin our guild. So I did like a quick guild profile. This has nothing to do with my character specifically. I just talk about all of the guilds that are out there. So first we have all the symbols. I wanted to include this artwork in my journal somewhere, and I thought this was a good way to incorporate it. I then did a page for each guild. I love these spreads, and I love that like the way the words turned out, like the titles. I tried to make sure they looked as close to the original as possible, and I think I did a pretty good job, if I say so myself. I didn't include like the information about the guild per se, but I did include everything else, and I really like the way the spread turned out. So we've got the House of the Order of the Crescent, House of the Arcane, the Mindwalker, and the Archivist. And then I also have like the guild special access places like that. Okay, and then I go into the conduits and the legacies. So these are all the conduits, and then the exclusive conduits. And then these are the legacy: Order of the Crescent, House of Arcane, the Mindwalkers, and the Archivists. As you can tell, I just used the stuff the G had posted, which made it really easy to make these spreads. Just pasted them right in my bullet journal. The next is the callings. For the callings, this I had to use because, I mean, come on. This, like, I love the way the artist made the Orilium Academy look, but the colors just make it even better. So I just used the calling cover page here. But for the actual callings themselves, I didn't include as much detail as there is in the file because there's just 20 some callings, and I didn't want to spend 20 pages on these. But I think they turned out pretty well as is. I've got all of the callings, and then I've got their traits. I've got 3 spreads, and I think they look pretty good, if I say so myself. I highlighted the guild special, like exclusive callings with the colors. So the purple for the House of Arcane. I've got the Order of the Crescent in green. I've got the Archivists calling in white, and then the Mindwalkers are like the color is black. And since I didn't want to do black on black, I decided to go with yellow because technically it's like black and gold. Everything is like the color in gold, but I might change it to gold, maybe. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, and then we have my character. So the first thing is building Ashlyn. So there's a traveler's key with all of the prompts. I include the prompts as is and try to incorporate it in my thing so it looks like it's part of the journal. And then I've got my scholar's key. My character's name is Ashlyn Montague Glowdew. I keep calling her Goldew. Anyway, so she's from the House of the Arcane, and her calling is Mindmender. And she's a novice, and as she moves on, I'm gonna color in the rest of them instead of like, you know, putting a new one. I will have that in my year-specific journals, but this is just the overview, so it's got everything. She's from an urban setting. She is from Carador. She is an earthling who's an air and fire earthling. And then she was born on a blood moon. Her conduit is a crystal inside, like on a sword. So I did read for both crystal and sword, but technically the crystal is the conduit. And then we have the pocket dimension as Ashlyn's legacy, which I talked in the Discord, and everyone like kind of came to the consensus that the pocket dimension is basically like a bag, but we'll see what these look like later. And then she is tenacious, independent, dedicated, self-conscious, cautious, and loyal. Now, I decided that in order to really know my character, to like a lot of the prompts, a lot of the decisions you make in this readathon are based on who your character is. And in order to really know her, I needed to create a background for her. and a really important part of that is creating a family. So I decided to do that. That was the first thing I did. I wrote up a story for her parents and everything. I'll show you what that looks like soon. I'm not going to go into details because that's just going to make it really long. But so her father's name is Callan Glodew. Her mother is Nissa Monter. Her brother is Jax Monter Glodew. Her pet is Silver, who is an ice wolf. So Silver isn't her familiar because she is not in the Order of the Crescent. It's just a pet she's had since childhood. So I then put in like a background on Ashlyn, just goes over who she is, just her personality and everything. And then I've got more pictures of Ashlyn. I made these images on Hero Forge for all of the character art I've done. And then this is Silver's magical form. Since it's a magical world, she's an ice wolf, this is her form. And yeah, so Silver, her pet, is loyal, playful, majestic, affectionate, and curious. I just love how all of these like letters look. I don't know how, but it looks fantastic. Okay, so let's move on to Jax, her twin. So Jax, like her, is an air and fire earthling. He is a part of the Archivist, so he attends Orilium with her, and when I wrote the story for Ashlyn's time at Orilium, their paths do coincide a lot. They're siblings, but they're also friends, and they're really close. But I'm only playing as Ashlyn. I just wanted to remind people. So I only read books for her. These are all her supporting characters. So I just wanted them to have their pages because, like, personally, I think you can't really be who you are without the people that support you. So I wanted to give them their own little spreads. And everything that I really write related to Ashlyn, because I've been writing a story along with playing, like reading as Ashlyn, like, you know, reading books for Ashlyn. It's been really fun. But yeah, like I mentioned, the support system around her really makes her who she is. Now back to Jax. So Jax's calling is to be a Feywild cartographer. He pledged himself to the goddess Lima. His pet is Ghost, a fire wolf who is the twin of Silver, the ice wolf. Yeah. Ice wolf. Yeah. And then there again, he's her twin. He's from Carador like her. And then his conduit is this polearm. I drew this polearm before making his character, so I had to make sure it kind of looked alike. But this is his character arc from Hero Forge. This is Wolf. So I keep calling him Wolf. This is Ghost, and this is Ghost's magical form. And then Ghost is loyal, active, friendly, smart, and adventurous. Okay, so that brings us to Nissa. Also, I didn't mention Jax's polearm's name is Katsia. I named all of their weapons. Okay, so Nissa is Ashlyn and Jax's mother. She's a fire earthling, and she is a part of the Mindwalkers Guild. Her and Callan, their father, both went to Orilium at the same time, but they didn't know each other when they were they didn't really, you know, they knew each other, but they didn't know each other at the time, met later on. I do write a story about that as well, but her calling is to be a stealth sword, and her secondary plane as part of the Mindwalkers is the Shadow Realm. Her home is Carador, and her conduit is a dagger whose name is Celeste. And this is Nissa. Next we have Callan, and then Callan is an air earthling, and he's part of the Order of the Crescent. He is a healer, and his familiar is a teacup phoenix, whose name is Siri, and his home is Earthria. And his quarterstaff is his conduit. What I was saying. And here is a picture of him. Here's a picture of Siri. Siri is focused, brave, and resilient. All right. So, like I've been mentioning, I wrote stories about the characters. This is a little peek at their history. I don't want to waste too much time on it, but it basically goes over how, like, who Nissa is, and then who Callan is, their time at Orilium, how they met beyond that, how they got together, and then how Ashlyn and Jax came to be, and then This is just Ashlyn and Jack's childhood and the way they grew up, going on adventures with their parents. I think all of these things really make a person who they are, and I needed that to really know Ashlyn to better decide what her calling was going to be. I did all of this to figure out her calling, and then I realized I really loved writing the stories, so I kept doing it. But it goes up to the point where Ashlyn and Jax leave for the novice bed. And then I thought that was gonna be it. Let's do Ashlyn's like home as the end and call it good. And then I was like, oh, Ashlyn needs friends at Orilium. Jax needs friends at Orilium. I want to do more profiles. Like, I've always wanted a core group of friends, and I gave Ashlyn that. So Ashlyn has 3 really close friends, and then Jax has 2 really close friends, but they're all a bigger friend group, and they're all friends with each other. So Ashlyn's best friend is Hyacinth Moonstone, and their other 2 friends are Caius Everett and Kea Valkis. Jax's best friends are Sylvie Overbrook Kane and Riker Everett. Riker and Caius are brothers, and Riker and Kea are actually second year, so they're apprentices, not novices when the rest come in. Now, I also do a little profile on each of these characters. So Hyacinth is an Eltarian, and she's part of the House of Arcane, and that's where her and Ashlyn meet. She's from Dark Meadow, and her calling is Rift Architect. Her conduit is this beautiful orb, and her legacy is the Locket of Clear Mind. Next, we have Caius, who is a human. He is part of the Mind Walkers, and he's from Carador, like Ashlyn and Jax. And his calling is Illusionist Rogue. His conduit is a wand, and his legacy is the Astral Plane. And then, like, I've got their personalities, like who they are here, and then I've got how they met Ashlyn here for all of the characters. Then we have Kea, who's also an apprentice, and she and Caius were friends before, and she meets Ashlyn and Hyacinth through Caius, because Ashlyn and Caius meet on Ashlyn's first day there. They all start hanging out, they all became fast friends. But Kea is an elf who was raised by 2 dwarves and really formed an affinity towards like building things and like being. She was really creative and logical, and so naturally her calling is to be a crafts mage. She's from Darun, and she's part of the Order of the Crescent. Her familiar slash legacy is this pretty little dragon, and her conduit is a trident. Next, we have Sylvie, who is a Skymorn and human. She is half Skymorn and half human. She's part of the Archivists. She is Jax's best friend, and she's from Carador as well. And her calling is Mage Hunter. This is her conduit, the staff, and her legacy is Gala, because she pledged herself to the goddess Gala. Again, this is who she is, and then how she meets Ashlyn. It kind of also talks about how she meets Jax, because that's how she meets Ashlyn. And then this is Riker. And Riker is a human. He is Caius's twin. Wait, not twin, little brother. He's Caius's little brother. He is Jax's friend. He's a mind walker. He's from Carador. His calling is a dream walker. His dagger is his conduit, and his legacy is the psychic plane. And he is Ashlyn's love interest in this book, in this world. I did put in a lot of details in everything. It's like an enemies to lovers story. Anyway, so this is like the books I read for the character building. So this is my scholar key, basically. So for Air Earthling, I read Witchwind. For Fire Earthling, I read The Darker Shade of Magic. For Urban, I read The X-Dock. For Carador, I read The Boyfriend Project. Moving on. This is the Novice Path. I've got the prompts for Novice Path right here for each of the places. And then we have the Novice Path map. And then I just like put in the transcript for the novice pack here. It's quite a few pages. If you participated in it, you know exactly what this is. If you didn't, I would recommend you participate in this so you can make your own decisions. There are some choices you make. It's just like what happens with your character on their way to Orilium. And then I've got my choices page, and I make my choices, and then I fill in the answers, and my character got invited to the the House of the Arcane and the Mind Walkers, and I have to choose. So I have got my character's journey here as well, and all the choices she makes, why she did certain things. This is basically just the path, like this, just with a little bit more personalization at the points where she's making the choices. And then here is a choice she has to make between the Mind Walkers and the House of the Arcane, and finally she does choose the House of the Arcane. And this is just like the books I read with the path. So I read Truth Witch for the Novice Path entrance. I've read It Happened One Summer for the Ashthorn Tree. I read One Last Stop for Mist of Solitude, House of Sky and Breath for Ruin of Sky, The House of the Dead for Obsidian Vaults, Hook, Line, and Sinker for Tower of Rumination, Love Boat Taipei for the Orilium Academy, and then I've got my little points section here. So basically it says Guild. At the end of this I chose the House of the Arcane, and then I got 50 points for completing the Novice Path. And the points are for your guild tiers, which I'm going to talk about soon. But upon completing Novice Path before April, I believe, we got 50 points. And I managed to complete it before April. And I read it between January and April. So I've got my 50 points right there. The next section I have, it's not the next thing we did in the Readathon because we had the gear up, but I decided to put this before for some reason. This is the House of the Arcane headquarters. So I wanted somewhere I can log all my points throughout the Readathon, regardless of what year is going on, what is going on. It's all going to be in one place. So I created like a little lounge with the sofa in the color of the House of the Arcane, our symbol, and then the guild tiers like meter. And then I fill it out as we go per semester. And right now, my character has completed 240 points because she did the Novice Path, which is 50. She completed the Spring Semester, which is 50. And then she read 140 points worth of quests. So 240 points. I am also currently reading for the guild quest. Since the House of the Arcane won, we got a special quest, and I'm reading for that. That's 20 more points. I'll be at 260 soon. And then we have the information about what each level really means. So you start as an initiate, go to assistant, revered, and it's just that. You can get that from like the documents G has posted. And then I also include like a little section about the House of the Arcane. Just a little bit more information about it since I have got the space. And then this is basically the Great Arcane Library, which is where I'm going to be recording every book I read for this Readathon. And yeah, this is how many I've read so far, including the Gear Up, the Character Creation, the Novice Path, and, well, the Spring Equinox. Next is the Gear Up. So the Gear Up was when we selected our conduit and our legacy. And it makes sense why I put it there after the headquarters, because, you know, I'm part of the House of the Arcane, so I gave it an introduction and then I talked about the gear ups for it. So like I mentioned before, my character has a crystal on a sword, but the crystal's the actual conduit, but I did read for both. And then my character has a pocket dimension as well. And this is just from the stuff G had posted. I tried to incorporate as much of her work, or like the stuff she has posted in my journal. And this is me trying to draw my pocket dimension and my conduit. My conduit's name is Althea. This is the crystal, this is the sword, For the sword, I read Blood Witch. For the crystal, I read Sunlight Over Crystal Sands. For the pocket dimension, I read Backup Plan. Both of them I read in March. Right, so finally, I did like an overview of all of the years. I'm gonna add on as we go. So for the spring of Novice here, the main job was to find your calling and to read for it. So for that, I have this. At first, I was really stuck between Mindmender, Illusionist, Rogue, and Mage Hunter, so I displayed that in the spread by putting miniature copies of the callings here. Then we have the Spring Equinox. The purple background is to represent the House of the Arcane. This is the syllabus with all of the prompts. You can read it like in person. I don't know how well you see it on camera. This is all the classes I completed. This is all the quests I read for. And that is it for what I have right now. As we go through this, I'm gonna add spreads for each semester and fill up the rest of this journal. So that is it for my flip through, and I would love to hear from you guys what you think your favorite spread for my journal was, if you would incorporate any of this into your journals. And yeah, I would love to hear your comments. If you have any suggestions of what else I could do in my future journals, I am happy to hear from you. And I'll see you later.